Hello, Tuesday World News. We'll start with this. The ratio of people aged 65 and over to the total population. Now, I've zoomed into Japan this year, 2011, and dragged it across to find 23% of the Japanese population is over the age of 65, and it's going to rise very quickly, even over the next 5 or 10 years. Germany, over the next 15 or 20 years, in the spotted line, is going to rise dramatically. Germany is aging quickly. France really quite quickly as well. Slightly better are the UK and the US, but still rising. That spotty line on the bottom is the US, and you can see the baby boomers coming into this category. Aging is a problem because old people are expensive. Right, so I've dragged from the Daily Telegraph UK today quite a lot of this article, link number 2. In an interview with the Daily Telegraph, the OECD's leading pensions analyst warned that Britain's ageing population, combined with already high rates of family breakdown, meant relations between the old and the young are under threat. Edward Whitehouse, the organisation's head of pensions policy analysis, said the UK was projected to have among the highest long-term care expenditures by 2050 of any of the 28 countries examined. Now, most people go, 2050, nothing to do with me then, that's fine. No need to worry about it. It's just a steady ramp up to 2050. It started. I don't think that future governments will be able to afford that, which brings us on to how we are going to pay for that system, he said. The money has got to be found from somewhere. It is going to have to be higher taxes or cuts in public spending on other programs to pay for the old. Later we read of the 28 OECD countries included in the research, only Malta and Spain will be spending a higher proportion of national income on long-term care than the UK. But the research on intergenerational solidarity warned that the rising bill for elderly care could undermine the nexus of family relations between generations. The OECD report said future generations may be less willing and able to pay continually rising taxes to support a growing share of economically inactive people. Countries where large numbers of older people rely on state pensions and care are more likely to regard the elderly as a burden on society, the research suggested. In addition, the UK is particularly at risk as a result of high rates of family breakdown, with more than 12% of British children living in step families, compared with an OECD average of 8%. And in the UK there are more single parents. Mr. Whitehouse said smaller and more complex families meant there would be fewer people to provide informal care to frail relatives in the future. One key solution would be for older people to remain in work for longer and build up their own private pensions, he said. Are you doing it, all of you? It's not just the UK, it's right across the OECD world. That's us, the advanced, Western, industrialised nations. Next chart. Savings rate versus JGB holdings of individuals. JGBs and Japanese government bonds. Savings rate in Japan, 1990 over on the left, coming down to 2009, and it's coming down from 14%, now it's down to just over 2% savings rate. So are the Japanese saving for their future? Have they saved? And what have they saved in? The other line is JGB holdings. If they have saved in Japanese government bonds. It's a dreadful, dreadful Ponzi scheme. Loop. Figure 6. Net lending to individuals. Second time I've used this chart in a month or so. Going back to 1987, it's the UK. And along the bottom is consumer credit. Nothing really wildly up and down. Bit more consumer credit, went over 5%, 5 billion pounds per quarter, and has now come down to nearly nothing. But in other words, paying back that consumer credit. But the big one obviously was secured on dwellings, the light blue, and those are mortgages that went from reasonable 5 billion in 1993 up to what was probably an unreasonable over 30 billion in 2003 and again in 2007, and has fallen off a cliff. A lot of people thought they were saving for their future in housing, but people are not going in for that paradigm anymore. At least they haven't been for the last couple of years. So will this mean that the people that have and have bought houses have made the wrong decision? House prices are holding on for the moment, but more people are not coming into that Ponzi scheme at the moment. And when people don't come in at the back end of a Ponzi scheme, the head falls off it and all the guts spill out. And that's it. Anything to note? Japan, after the Second World War, with all the fuss and communism and general unhappiness going on, was the first into a welfare state. Japan was basically the first welfare state. And they went in early and hard, and it worked for a good long while. And now they are struggling to pay for it. But everyone expects it, as they do in the rest of the OECD as well. See you tomorrow.